Do you love TV shows? We do too. Hello, everyone. I'm Jeff.
And I'm Anna, and we're the hosts of We Judge a Show by Its Pilot, a podcast hosted by us, a married couple with an endless love for TV.
Whether you're searching for a new favorite series or ready to revisit an old classic, we're here to guide you through an infinite world of TV shows.
Each episode, we watch and discuss the pilot for shows while also sharing personal stories that parallel the storyline.
So if you're tired of endlessly scrolling and not sure what to watch next, tune in and let us do the searching for you.
We Judge a Show by Its Pilot. New episodes every Tuesday and Friday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Your new favorite show is just one click away. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our pod.
Hello. Happy birthday week to me.
Happy birthday. Well, this is coming out on your birthday, so happy birthday.
Thank you.
We will be going out to eat to an Indian cuisine. And
You've never been there?
I've never been there, and I'm very excited because I love my Indian food.
Awesome.
And yeah. So you excited about your, this is coming out on your birthday, but are you excited about your birthday this year? Excited about your birthday weekend?
Yeah. So we're going to have a party on Saturday at the house, and the theme is teenies and tacos because Anna's a teeny bit older, so it's martinis, different martinis, tacos, some Mexican food that we're going to have here. All the friends, we're going to play my guessing game that we started last year and just have fun. I am a person who I would much rather just have a party here at the house where I can talk to my friends, not feel like I'm rushed or, feel that it, has to be at a place. I also do not like surprises, so I like to plan my own parties and do what I want at my own expense and, the things that I want to have at the party.
Yeah, I'm not against going to someone's birthday party that's like at a bar or at a restaurant or something like that. I have no problem with that. We've done that.
Oh, yeah.
Plenty of times. I've done that for my 40th birthday. We did hibachi with our friend group, but we also did, because it was my 40th birthday, we also did a weekend in Biloxi. We had this big thing with my family, and then we had a dinner on my actual birthday with our friends to hibachi. So I think that's the most I've ever done for a birthday personally.
Yes.
But I also planned it, and I told you this is what I want to do, and I too... It's not that I don't like surprises. I've just never had a surprise birthday party ever in my life. I don't think I've ever had one before.
I think my thing with it and this is just me, and this is how I've always been. I've just always been much more low key on birthdays.
Yeah.
It started with my mom, initially elementary school and early junior high, late elementary. It was always you could have 2 or 3 friends.
Yeah.
And then kind of later junior high and high school, she let me have 5 to 8 friends come, and it was just always slumber parties at our house. I did not grow up in the era of having super fancy, we go to a location.
Yeah.
But I always liked it at our house because, my mom would make it fun and make fun foods, or we would do stupid games and stuff like that. So I think it's just really an extension of that. But I really do like the at home with friends because I don't feel like we're at a restaurant, we feel rushed or, that kind of thing. And again, if that's what you love, that's what you love. And that's more power to you. It's just not what I love. I also feel like when you're at a restaurant at a table, unless it's a round table, you're just really there talking to the people right next to you.
Or across from you.
Or across from you. And sometimes not even both or all 3 of the people. It's sometimes just one. It was like you at the crawfish boil this weekend for AO Pie. You were like, well, I'm glad Alicia was here because I got to talk to her, but, and I know that that's what happens. And that's why I do like the more mixing and mingling.
Yeah. Oh, we were just sitting there literally listening to everyone's conversations. We were just sitting there kind of listening to you and Karen and that group, and then the people next to us, and then the people across from us. We're just kind of listening to everybody. Yeah. And but she kept getting the attention because she's not an AOPI, so everyone kept asking her who she was.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Why are you here? Who are you? So, yeah, that was good.
But, yeah, I'm just not a big... when I was younger, we would do something for my birthday, but it was always like very typical. Like I had one birthday, I had it at Chuck E. Cheese. One was at Celebration Station, which is essentially the same thing. And I think I did a roller rink in 4th grade because I was like really into rollerblading and roller skating when I was younger. But then after that, it was just sleepovers. I think 5th grade and on, it was just sleepovers. I think one year my dad took me and like 2 of my friends to a Kingfish game, the hockey. It's a junior league ice hockey team that Baton Rouge used to have. And because I was also used to be into sports, believe it or not, and I used to be really into hockey.
Well, all I think I remember about actually going anywhere for one of my birthdays was, and I totally remember this, I was in 4th grade, so I was like maybe turning 9 or 10 whichever
10
year that was.
Grade, yeah.
It was the year that McDonald's Sundays came out.
Ooh.
And they used to come in like the little dish. It wasn't in like the tall kind of cup that it is now. It was in like a little dish, or maybe that was what they were giving us, the samples. And you got to pick your strawberry, caramel, or chocolate with the nuts on top.
Oh, wow.
But it was coming out that weekend, and my mom let me and my 3 friends walk to McDonald's so we could go and get ice cream, the new ice cream sundaes from McDonald's.
Nice.
So that was whatever year that was.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think it was like 1979 or something. So I have to look that up with McDonald's history but I'm fairly positive that was the year that they launched the sundaes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, McDonald's. I just made me think of when I worked there and serving all those.
And the ice cream machine never worked.
Yeah, it was just always being clean. There was just always something wrong with it. All right, so happy birthday.
Thank you.
First and foremost, even though we've been chit-chatting for like 6 minutes, happy birthday, but we are continuing Anna Month, and I think it's kind of even more serendipitous that this is the episode that falls on your birthday, just because this is a reflection of, so now we're in the era of I would say kind of present day, because this is your career more or less.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not officially an attorney, but you went to law school and you have worked in the law profession for a very long time, and
almost 27 years.
And so I feel like it's very convenient that this would be your birthday, because this was and is such a big part of your life.
Oh yeah.
Until you met me, it was the biggest part of your life.
Who are you?
Excuse you.
And this came out when
Look at that awkward pause.
I know. And this was when I was in law school.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, so we are talking about Ally McBeal, which, I mean, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it later. We'll talk about it in a second, and you'll touch on it in the episode and series information. The show was freaking huge when it first came out.
Oh yeah.
The show was huge when it first came out, and I never watched a single episode because it just wasn't my era. I was in middle school when this came out, so this was just not, I was not interested in watching a show like this, but too mature, I guess, for me. But yeah, so, but you obviously, this was a show that, did you watch the full run of Ally McBeal?
Probably until the last season. I know I watched scattered episodes, but by 2002, I was living in Seattle. 2001 to 2002, I was living in Seattle, and I think it had kind of, I'm not going to say jumped the shark or anything.
It definitely fizzled out.
Yeah, it just kind of fizzled with the storylines, and you were just kind of getting tired of the sort of the same thing over and over.
Because it's weird, because it only lasted for 5 seasons, but it's like I feel like it both went longer than that and was shorter than that. Because when I saw the 5 seasons, I was maybe expecting it to be 3 or 4 seasons, but then I was also expecting it to be 8 or 9 seasons. I don't know why. That's just a really weird thought that I had when I was first doing the episode and series information. I just knew nothing about this show other than what you're going to talk about in a second when you do the series and episode information. So you can just go ahead and do that now.
All right. Ally McBeal, the pilot. Ally McBeal was an American comedy drama that aired on Fox from September 8th, 1997 to May 20th, 2002 for 5 seasons and a total of 112 episodes. The series was created by David E. Kelley. Kelley is a TV legend, having created shows such as Doogie Howser MD, Picket Fences, Boston Public, Boston Legal, Mr. Mercedes, and Big Little Lies. The pilot was written by Kelley and was directed by James Frawley, probably best known for directing the Muppet Movie from 1977, but he also directed for several TV shows such as Chicago Hope and Picket Fences, also shows created by Kelley. The show revolves around the titular character Ally McBeal, a lawyer living in Boston who has recently begun working at a law firm ran by a former classmate, but is shocked to learn she will also start working with her ex-boyfriend. The main cast includes Callista Flockhart as the titular Ally McBeal, Greg German as Richard Fish, Ally's charming yet narcissistic boss and former classmate, Lisa Nicole Carson as Renee Raddick, Ally's ambitious and loyal best friend and roommate, Jane Krakowski as Elaine Vassal, Ally's eccentric assistant, Gil Bellows as Billy Thomas, Ally's ex-boyfriend and co-worker, Courtney Thorne-Smith as Georgia Thomas, Ally's co-worker and Billy's wife.
Now, did I get that wrong? Georgia works at the firm too, right?
Not initially.
Okay.
Yeah, she works at another place.
I kept seeing coworker, but I was like, I don't remember them being coworkers in the pilot. I was like, maybe she works for the firm later. I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just like making sure. I wasn't making
initially
a mistake.
she doesn't. She works somewhere else, and then she comes on and joins at the firm.
Okay.
Peter McNichol as John Cage, Richard's socially awkward business partner. Actors that would later join the show include Lucy Liu, Robert Downey Jr., Regina Hall, James Marsden, and James LaGrosse. Ally McBeal became an instant hit, being one of the highest rated TV shows during its run. The show became known for its quirky humor, fantasy sequences. Ally McBeal became an instant hit, being one of the highest rated TV shows during its run. The show became known for its quirky humor, fantasy sequences, and memorable soundtrack. But the series is perhaps best known for inspiring one of the internet's first viral videos, The Dancing Baby. Ooga chugga, ooga, whatever that was.
Oh, yeah.
The series was nominated for a total of 34 Primetime Emmys, winning 7 of them, including Outstanding Comedy Series and Casting. You can currently watch the entire series on Hulu.
Yeah, I didn't know because he isn't in the pilot. I didn't know Peter McNichol was in the show.
Yeah, he comes on later. Yeah,
so I had never watched this before. And I have to say, I'm pleasantly surprised. I thought it was very funny. I will say it also aged well. It's still, the subjects that were covered are still very current and kind of timeless. And I didn't know that it was, and now that I'm looking back, I'm a huge fan of like when DVDs first became a big thing. I was a big fan of my big decision on buying a DVD was the special features. It was
Gotcha.
Do they have audio commentaries? Do they have behind the scenes? Do they have all that
deleted stuff? Yeah.
So when I first started watching Scrubs, first time I ever watched Scrubs was I had season 1 on DVD.
Okay.
And I watched all the behind the scenes stuff, and I didn't know that Bill Lawrence was the creator of Scrubs, Bill Lawrence. I didn't know that he was. I remember him talking about being a fan of Ally McBeal, and his favorite part about Ally McBeal were all the random fantasy sequences, which is something that Scrubs became famous for. It became the thing on Scrubs were the fantasy sequences. And now kind of seeing Ally McBeal, I'm like, oh my God, of course, Bill Lawrence it wasn't inspired. He just completely ripped it off.
Yeah, totally. He just started doing it himself.
He just started doing it, yeah. And then Scrubs came out 3 years after this, so yeah, I just thought it was really interesting. And the cast, I did not know that Jane Krakowski was on the show. I did not know that, like I said, Peter McNichol was on this show. I was just like, oh my God, I knew, the only thing I knew about this show was the dancing baby. And I knew that there was a character that everyone called Fish. I knew that was the only two things I knew about Ally McBeal.
Yeah, and this was very early Lucy Liu. This was Courtney Thorne-Smith post Melrose Place. This was also Gil Bellows post his stint as Tommy in Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, okay.
So this was
Yeah.
like a lot of people converging.
Yeah.
Callista Flockhart was also kind of, given props because she resembled Michelle Pfeiffer, who is married to David E. Kelly. And a lot of people were like, oh, that's why she got it. Because she was like a new and up and comer,
Yeah.
I think. I don't think she had been in anything too mainstream at that point. And so there were just a lot of people. The actress who played her roommate had been in ER. She had played Peter Benton's baby mama.
Okay.
And so, yeah, again, you just knew a lot of these people from different different careers, or like at that time, really current blips in their career.
So any excuse to talk about Melrose Place. Did Courtney Thorne-Smith leave Melrose Place for this show, or was there just kind of like her contract was up and then this show kind of just fell in her lap? Because she had a great run in TV. I think
she had left Melrose at some point, like season 5 or 6, right? And then so it must have been not necessarily to do this, but then this fell probably into her lap because she was free from Melrose Place.
Yeah, because like she had like Melrose Place, and then she had Ally McBeal, and then she had the family show.
I'm Still Standing. No, that was
Jamie
Jamie
Gertz. But that show was hilarious. Was it Yes Dear? Or According to Jim.
According to Jim.
Yeah, I was like King of Queens. I was
she
going through
had
all
like
those.
a good 20 plus year run on just TV.
Yeah, she did.
And what's crazy is I have loved her since Lucas.
Oh yeah, Summer School.
I think she is just beautiful. She's still beautiful today. Yeah. I mean, we listen to the pod every now and then with the other
still
Daphne.
The place,
it's still the place. I just remember her from Lucas and just totally going like, she is just beautiful.
She's very pretty. Yeah.
And when she became kind of the like counter to Ally McBeal, I'm like, okay, you have these two beautiful women, and they look just vaguely similar, but you just see Courtney Thorne-Smith in those like ice blue eyes, and you're just like mesmerized by them. She's just a beautiful person. So
you all right over there? You getting a little?
I'm getting a little emotional about Courtney Thorne-Smith. She's just beautiful. If you don't know, I already think she's beautiful.
Yeah,
so
Women Crush Wednesday,
as well as Callista Flockhart. She's beautiful. She's very cute.
All the women on the show are beautiful.
Yes.
We can easily say that.
Yes.
All right. So this is all about working at a law firm, and you didn't go to college initially you weren't pre-law, like you weren't going to become a lawyer. Did you ever have ideas of it before going to law school?
Actually, yes. It wasn't my major. I wasn't like pre-law.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything specifically, but to go to law school, you can be almost any major you want.
Degree.
Correct.
Legally Blonde taught me that. Yeah.
Yes. Well, generally you don't go from fashion merchandising to law school.
Right.
But
I just learned that you didn't have to major in political science or
Correct.
pre-law
or
history in order to go to law school.
But I had always had an interest in the law early in my undergrad career because of an actual legal case that had transpired in New York called the Preppy murder.
Yes.
And it was the case of a young girl. She was around 18, and she was murdered by an acquaintance in Central Park. And a big part of the trial became the evidence that was allowed into trial.
Okay.
A lot of her sexual past, promiscuity,
Gotcha.
partying, all of that was allowed in by the court from the defense, whereas his heavy drug use, arrests, burglaries, assaults on women, none of that was allowed under the rules of evidence into the case by the prosecution. So he couldn't be punished because of prior bad acts. And so I just always felt like, wow, so we're blaming the victim again.
Yeah.
And she's dead.
Yeah.
And so that just, as a female, infuriated me. And I was just always fascinated by that rule. I get it. I understand, like, if you were on trial for whatever and you've done all these other bad acts, I get it. We shouldn't be able to bring all of that in, but you shouldn't also be able to trash the victim who is dead that you're prosecuting someone for. So that to me was really a big trigger in my interest in the law, because I felt that was a very conflicted rule of evidence. And so I had actually thought about law school, but again, that happened, I think, when I was around a freshman. Might have happened like right before I started college. But around 1989 was the time that my dad died. And my mom was like, you have got to find, you need to be able to make sure you have a job when you graduate. Yeah. And that became a big focus. And law school meant going to school longer.
Going to more school, yeah.
Which was just funny because I did end up going to school longer.
Yeah.
Before even law school. So I had thought about it. It had been in my line of sight of a thought that might happen in the future. And then when I lost my teaching job around 1995, I tried to get another job, and then I had to move home because I did not have a job by the fall of 1995. So, sorry, I'm losing track of my years. Yes. I moved home. Gosh, wait a minute. I'm losing my train of thought. Anyway, so I moved home, and then I started working in New Orleans at the department store, and then I started law school in the fall of 96.
Okay.
So there I am. I've lost track of my timeline.
So what led you to go to law school?
Well, I also struggled finding a teaching job in New Orleans because I think I mentioned on a prior pod that I was specialized. I had a teaching certificate in teaching Spanish literature. And you could actually start and get a certificate back then in another subject, but none of the positions that were open were anything I felt I was ever going to be qualified to do. Like I think I mentioned, there was a school that offered me a chemistry job, and I was like, there is no way I can teach chemistry. I don't know anything about it at all. Like if you had said civics or history, sure, I could read up and
English,
talk about
literature.
the Civil War or whatever. And so by that fall, I had started working at the department store, and I was like, you know what? Why don't I just try to take the LSAT and see what happens? So I literally signed up for the December LSAT. It's funny because that year, I think Tiffany had been living in San Antonio, and we were obviously still in touch. And she asked me like what I wanted for Christmas, and I said, well, I think I might have signed up. It might have been like a January LSAT because she asked me what I wanted for Christmas. And I said, well, if you wanted, I could go for like an LSAT study book, because this was before you took like classes. Yeah. Like they have like study classes now for any test. And so she was like, okay. So she had gone to some, bookstore, Books A Million, whatever it was back in the day. And she got me a study guide for the LSAT, was my Christmas present. And I used that, answered the questions, read the sample essays. I did like little practice answers, and I took the LSAT, and then I applied to Loyola, Tulane, and LSU, and I got accepted. And I decided to go to Loyola.
Nice.
Yeah. So that was it. It was really, I was at a very kind of big gap transition in teaching. I couldn't find anything in the field that I was looking for. And I felt, well, you know what? I have the time. I'm still young. I can go to law school, and, I'm not going to say I wasn't a traditional student, but I was, like 27 when I started law school. But I mean, I wasn't like a lot of the kids these days go straight from undergrad, like 21, 22. And especially now that they're graduating earlier because they start with credits.
Yeah.
They start law school at 20 or 21. And I'm just like, wow, yeah, that's a lot. So yeah, I started when I was 27 and then started at Loyola.
So what was, I mean, obviously you don't have to give me like a detailed account, but what was law school like what for anyone that perhaps is listening to this that maybe wants to go to law school?
And so it's changed a lot.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, because I joke to a lot of students all the time that Loyola was like tough, but it was good. I had a great experience. I had so many friends. I just had my reunion. I have been helping plan all the reunions since we've had them. I didn't know a lot about law school going into it because I didn't really know that many attorneys. I mean, there's no one in my family that's an attorney. Right. And so I remember going to the actual library near my mom's house and going to check out a book called One by Scott Turow. Okay. And the book is called One because that is what the first year law students are called. They are called 1Ls, one for one law, 1L year. And so I read that book. I think he had gone to Harvard, and I remember reading the book, and it talked about like how cutthroat law school was, how competitive it was, and how just everyone was out for their ranking and all of this. And that was a lot of the case. I mean, a lot of people wanted to make law review, wanted to make moot court team. If you weren't ranked high, chances were you weren't going to get a job at one of the top firms in New Orleans. And so I just knew that wasn't who I was. Yeah. I knew that I just needed to finish. And I wanted to have different experiences while in law school that would give me a chance at getting a job when I was done. Yeah. And that was kind of what I decided to do. It's a lot of reading. It's a lot of being prepared to be called on. Yeah. It's very different from undergrad where, you know, you're in a humongous classroom and the teacher just lectures at you. In law school, a lot of times they are like, Miss Guerra, Mr. Colvin, what do you think about this case? Or what do you know, what was the holding? Why do you think the judge ruled that way? You know, it's a lot of what they call Socratic method where they ask you and you answer.
Call and response. Yeah.
And so it was different in that way. It was tough in the sense of I lived on the West Bank. I didn't have a car, so I practically lived at Loyola during classes. And I also, my first 2 years, I worked at Maison Blanche and then got a job at a law firm. I also got my job with Westlaw as a student worker, and I worked as a research assistant. I was on journal. So I tried to give myself experiences that I felt would help me get a job when I graduated, especially since I wasn't at the top of my class. Yeah. And so that was my mindset, because my other mindset was like, there can only be 10 people in the top 10 of the class. Right. Like, so what are you going to do if you're not one of those? So I felt like I wanted to diversify the opportunities that I had. And I feel like I did that. I gave myself lots of different experiences.
Did you work at any law firms while you were in law school?
I did.
What was that like?
It was actually very interesting. I worked at a small plaintiff's firm, a toxic torts firm downtown on St. Charles, downtown. And I would get there before classes, and I started working there my second half of second year and then third year of law school. Okay. And so I would go before classes, after classes, and I would, do client intake. I would meet with the litigation team. I would do research for the attorneys, write memos, make photocopies, whatever they wanted you to do. I went to court with them, sat in on motion hearings. And that to me taught me I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life.
Okay.
That to me was the learning lesson in that position. Was I just remember, like, after having worked there for about 3 or 4 months, after like my first summer working there, I just remember my mom was like, "Oh my God, you like work too much and you're like depressed." And
Yeah.
I don't know if I was depressed, but it was very depressing work. I mean,
Gotcha.
we were dealing with people who were sick, dying, or already dead
Mhm.
because they had mesothelioma or lung cancer, asbestos, sickness, illnesses, related diseases. And so you were dealing with people who had cancer, who had lung issues, breathing problems, or who had already passed away. So it was very depressing in that sense.
So when you were in law school, your, essentially your plan was to become an attorney.
Not necessarily, actually. I honestly went to law school with a pretty open mind. I had an idea that I actually wanted to do either international law because of my Spanish background, or do something with immigration law because we have a big immigration court in New Orleans. And so I thought those could be paths that I could take, especially since my parents were immigrants. And at the time, I was pretty fluent in Spanish. I can't say that any longer. I am not. I can understand it, but I can't speak it very well. But I was very open to whatever opportunity. I mean, like I said, I worked at a toxic torts plaintiffs firm. Had I enjoyed that at all, I mean, it was very lucrative. I mean, I'll tell you, these attorneys were not poor. And so I felt like if I wanted to keep going on that path, I maybe could have stayed at that firm, but I ended up getting my job that I have today the summer after I graduated, and I wanted to do that more.
So you didn't necessarily have like a goal of becoming like a defense attorney
Correct.
or like a prosecutor
Nope.
or any of that.
Nope.
Being like small claims, whatever. I don't know all the different subgenres of
Yeah,
law.
I mean, there's so many: bankruptcy, tax, family, trust and estates,
Estate planning,
insurance, business, corporate. I mean, I had no preconceived idea of what it was I wanted to do. Again, I felt like this degree would give me just more opportunities, and that's what I was looking for. I mean, I will say the job at the law firm taught me that I didn't want to do that. That's why I was saying, like, if I had enjoyed it, I mean, I think I could have been a kick-ass practice plaintiff attorney, but I hated it. It was very depressing, and it was very hard in the sense of like client management, case management, just courts, prep. I mean, it was a lot. I mean, the firm I worked at, it was a smallish firm, but it had a big office of a lot of people that were helping run it. So, I mean, it was a lot of work.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure I'm almost positive that you've talked about this on the pod. So you did not complete your bar exam, correct?
Correct. I left the Friday of the bar exam.
When you got offered the job for the job that you have now.
Correct.
And so it's just so crazy that you just like walked out of the bar exam. It's just so crazy.
I did.
Just thinking
It's a
about
true
that.
story.
So was that on the? I know it's like the bar exam's like over a few days. But was that like on the last day? Of
Yes.
Wow.
So the bar exam in Louisiana is Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It is a 9-part exam, and back in the day, you could pass, you could condition, and you could fail it. Now it's only pass fail.
Okay.
And so on Wednesday night of the bar, I came home and got the job offer for the job I have today.
Okay.
And he said, "You will be on a plane on Sunday to go to Minnesota." And I was like, oh, that fast. So I literally had Thursday, Friday, and Saturday to get ready.
Yeah.
To pack up to go to Minnesota for training for 3 weeks. And so Friday morning, I got up. And I didn't have to be licensed for the job I have today. I still don't have to be licensed. And so when I got to the bar for the 3 exams that day, I think I might have taken the first one. And then during the first break, I was like, why am I here? I already have a job.
Yeah.
And so I packed up my stuff, and you had to like Back then you did it handwritten.
Yeah.
And so you had to check in your purse and any of like your phone or beeper, any electronics, like you couldn't bring anything with you.
Right.
And I went to the lady and I was like, I need to check out my bag. And she's like, you can't, you cannot bring anything with you. You can't look at anything. And I said, no, I'm leaving. And she was just like, what? And I said, yeah, I'm leaving. I got a job Wednesday night and I don't have to be licensed for it. So I need to go. And I think like the bar, I'm going to make up the time because it's obviously changed, but it was like 10 to 12. Then you had a lunch break, then 1 to 3, and then like 3:30 to 5:30, something like that. And, I remember getting home at like noon and my mom was like, what are you doing here? And I was like, I have to pack. I'm leaving on Sunday. And I remember she was just like, you left the bar. And I was like, well, I don't need it. And I just, at that point, I actually really my brain had just dumped.
Yeah.
Like I was just like, I need to pack. I need to figure out where I'm going to live in Seattle. Like, I don't know I've never been to this place. Like so much stuff was going through my head. I don't think I could have even finished the bar had I stayed.
Right.
Like I really don't. I know that sounds like, oh, that's lame or whatever. You're just a cop out. And I'm like, no, really. I don't even know how I finished the first test that day.
Whatever. That's lame. You're a cop out.
I know. I'm a loser. I'm a loser.
Okay. So I know how much, since you just said how much you hate surprises. I have a surprise question for you.
Okay.
So today is your birthday. This is a fun question.
Okay.
Or it may not be. I don't know. So today is your birthday, and you are going to tell me, and you're not gonna say I don't know, and you're not gonna say I don't remember. You're not gonna say I don't recall. What is, from your memory, what is the worst birthday you've ever had, and what is the best birthday you've ever had?
Oh, I know the worst one.
Okay.
Was for sure when I turned 21. And I had a fever of like 104. And my roommate brought me to the on-campus infirmary and they wanted to rush me to the ER and I started crying.
Oh my
and
God.
I begged them not to because I was scared. And it was crazy because at that time, like literally that week of that birthday, they had changed all the phone numbers on campus. They had gone to like a new phone system.
Yeah.
And everybody's phone number on campus had changed. And so like I didn't know anyone's phone number to call to come help me.
That sucks.
And all I could remember, Lisa was living in an apartment complex by that point.
Lisa,
the one, my little.
Yeah.
And I told the nurse, I was just like, I know my AOPI Little's phone number because that was back when you memorized phone numbers. And so I called her and I was like, can you come get me? I was like, they won't let me leave without someone and I don't know anyone's number. So she had ended up calling a couple of people because the infirmary was literally across like the street from the dorm I lived in, but I couldn't remember anyone's phone number to come get me.
Yeah.
Like, I want to think, I think I just said my roommate took me, but I don't think she did. I think she was just like, go over there and like, you need help. Like you are like on fire. And then they wouldn't let me leave. And that's why they were like, you have to have someone come get you.
Yeah.
And I couldn't remember anyone's phone number, like not even my own. And so, or she just didn't answer and maybe that was it. So anyway, Lisa actually came from her off-campus apartment and had called a couple of people in the dorm and they had all walked over to come get me. But that was like, I'm going to say at like 7:00 at night. Like the nurses stayed with me at the infirmary.
Damn.
Our infirmary was a piece of crap at NLU. Like it was literally two old ladies who gave out like notes.
A small college campus, I can't imagine having a great infirmary.
And so I just remember like they were really nervous about not sending me to the ER. Like they were like, oh my God, are we going to get fired? What if she dies? Like, and I was like, I don't want to go to the hospital. No. Like I was like, my mom's going to kill me. I don't know why I thought my mom would kill me for being sick, but I was just like, no, because this was the spring after my dad had died. Yeah. And so I think my mom would have freaked out.
Gotcha.
Like everything that was still going on because that was only like 5 months after. And so I think she would have been like freaking out thinking something was wrong with me. And so I didn't want to worry her. And then inevitably, like, I think she had called me the next day to see how my birthday had gone. And I was like, well, I was in the ER. And there was like a social that night that I missed. I was also really upset because I missed the big party and everyone was going to take me out and I missed going out. So that was my worst one. That was the worst of, I will say, ever. The best... Besides any of with you.
Besides? Why can't it be including?
Well, I mean, because those are always the best. Okay. Like, you always try to do something really special for me, be it a gift or doing something or going somewhere.
Brian, so cameo from Brian Baumgartner.
Yes, that was one of my favorites ever. So anything from 2017 on has always been amazing because you have always tried to make my birthday really special and surprise me. Which is hard, as I've mentioned, to do. But I will then also have to say my best was spring break 1987 on the beach in Destin. 18 on the 18th, spring break, senior year, probably a little toe up and hanging on the beach in a bikini or something, you know, just like living the life back when you didn't have any responsibilities. So that was probably the best because I had earned it. My mom was like, you can go, but you have to pay for it. I think I've mentioned I would mow lawns. I would babysit anyone's kids. I offered to like go help people do stuff in their gardens. Like I was doing anything to make the $200 to $300 I needed to raise to pay for that trip. And so it felt good that I earned that trip for myself. So that I will say was probably the best.
Yeah, I think a birthday of yours that pops in my brain that was special was actually because your birthday in 2020 happened a month into COVID. And we had a very small, it was our core friend group came over. And there was just something really special about that birthday. I don't remember exactly why. I think it was just like despite... That was the beginning of all of the madness, the beginning of all the craziness, and we all just kind of came here. It was almost kind of like the outside world didn't really matter, and it was just us together. It was just I just remember it being a very special birthday.
And it had done a 180, or whatever you call it. Yeah, a 180, because I had planned to actually... We were going to go to the main event. Yeah. We were going to go bowling and do all of that. Like you had won something with Canes, I think.
We had that raffle ticket that you found on the ground, that one.
Yeah. And so of course. I had won that and I was like, well, I'm going to treat everyone to go to the main event and then we'll buy like food and drinks and whatever. And then the freaking pandemic happened and they closed. I mean, everything that was non-essential, closed. And so... I think that birthday ended up being what we all needed. Yeah. And actually what is probably really my preference. Just a game night with friends and just hanging out. I mean, it's kind of funny that you were just talking about your 40th birthday and all the stuff we did for it. When for like my 50th, you made me, Summer, and Alicia spaghetti and meatballs, and that was it. Yeah. Like, that was all I wanted. And because people always ask, like, oh, what did you do for your 50th? Because I seem to have these, like, kind of bigger parties. Like, we've done Top Golf, and we did my Rainbow Party last year and the party this year.
Oh, the Rainbow Party was good.
And that was a fun one. Was just like, I didn't want anything big for my 50th. I just wanted it to be, like, the core friends, like my two best friends here and you. And for me, that was enough. Yeah. And like, that was what I wanted. And people are just always really surprised. And, that was 2019. So that was before the pandemic. Yeah. And that's why I think we were going to do the main event the next year in 2020, because I hadn't done something big. And then all of a sudden we were jolted back to just being with the 6 of us, or 7, 8 of us, and so... Because that was all who we hung out with for like the first 6 months of the pandemic. It was Wes and Dee and Heather and Elliot and Alicia and Summer and me and you. And that was all who came into this house. Maybe your mom once or twice, but that was it.
Yeah, I talked about my worst birthday. It was when I got the Amish haircut on my 14th birthday. Best birthday, I don't really think... don't really think I've had a best birthday before. I don't know. Maybe it's just because of like the time of year that my birthday is. I don't know, because like I try to think of like, oh well, I guess I had a good time on my 21st birthday, but I didn't have that great of a 21st birthday. I was in Austin, Texas, visiting my mom. We went to this really nice place called Gristmill, and that was kind of it. Like I had gotten pretty wasted the night before, so I was kind of taking it easy on my actual 21st birthday. But yeah, I try to think of like best birthdays, and I'm just like, man, like I just, maybe it's just because I just don't make a big deal out of my birthday.
Nothing that I've done for you.
I
for
mean,
your
well, I
birthday?
mean, I hate being like, this is my favorite birthday because I got this kind of present. Like I just, that just feels very bratty. But like, I will say my first birthday living here, I believe, was when you decided to give me a present every day of the month of October. And I remember you telling me at one point, a little bit afterwards, you were like, yeah, I'm never doing that again. I was running out of stuff. But I think I worked on my actual birthday, and I came home to a framed poster of Nightmare on Elm Street, Dream Warriors, and I kept saying, oh my God, I love this so much. Thank you so much. So that was probably the best birthday, because you got me something that you knew I was going to be excited about. That's my all-time favorite movie. And it was always so hard for me to find posters. I could never find posters of it. And of course you got it, and it was framed. And I remember taking a picture of it and just being so excited. I couldn't wait to hang it up.
I'm trying to think, what did we do for your birthday when you were still living at Jones Creek?
So that was during the Shocktober years.
Right.
And that October, that wasn't when we decorated.
No, that was at the beginning of the month.
Oh, well, my actual birthday was when people came over and we watched People Under the Stairs.
Oh, that's right.
And that was when everybody showed up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was when like people that had just started at George's showed up. That was when Courtney.
Everyone was, Courtney and Sarah and Rick were all on the chaise, and Maggie was on the chaise.
Josh was on the floor.
Yeah, people were everywhere. Matt was there, Andy.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone, Blake, Ian, Neil.
Yeah.
Like everyone was piled all in that. Okay, because that's what I was wondering,
Yeah.
if that was what that that night. Okay, yeah.
So yeah, that was that actually was a fun birthday. That one was just because
I didn't plan that officially myself. I mean, that was just
I guess, yeah. So those are my best and worst birthdays. All right, you want to get into this pilot summary?
Let's do it.
All right, I did a pretty good job of summarizing this. It's only a page and a half. So
Oh, okay, wow.
It's not that nothing happens in this episode. It's just pretty cut and dry. The things that happen in this episode is very straightforward. Once again, it's a pilot. They follow the guidelines. All right, Ally McBeal pilot summary. In flashbacks, young lawyer Ally McBeal recalls how she initially went to law school to follow her childhood sweetheart Billy Thomas to Harvard Law. Before this, Ally had actually never considered practicing law, but Billy breaks up with Ally when he decides to go to law school in Michigan, but Ally decides to continue on to Harvard Law and becomes a lawyer with a prominent firm. So is University of Michigan, is that like a really big law school?
It's pretty big, but I wouldn't. At the very beginning of the episode, what's crazy is he talks about making law review at Michigan, and so I don't know how you make law review at Michigan. At most law schools, it is like the top 10% of the class. So if your class is 100 people, it's the top 10 students, or if it's 200 students, it's the top 20 students. So I wonder if his grades weren't good enough at Harvard to make law review, but they would have been good enough to be in the top of his class at Michigan.
Gotcha.
But that whole dialogue seemed really weird, but I guess that happens.
Yeah.
But I don't know what ties he had to Michigan to just go there other than making law review.
So Ally decides to continue on to Harvard Law and becomes a lawyer with a prominent firm in Boston, by the way.
Yeah.
When one of the firm's partners, Jack Billings, essentially gets away with sexually harassing her, Ally quits. And this was also kind of like, not the beginning, because sexual harassment has been around since forever, but this was kind of the beginning of making it known that this happens in the workplace, like sexual harassment stuff.
It had been in other shows. I mean, we talked about Mary Tyler Moore.
Oh, that's true.
I mean, you know, that
actually having like a word though. I mean, like it actually
yeah,
having like a term.
I mean, it was I think a trope to get her to leave and all of the stuff that happens during that episode. Not a trope. It's not like it happened to her.
Yeah. Right after quitting, Ally runs into her old classmate, money-loving Richard Fish, who invites her to join his newly formed firm. Fish gives Ally a can't-lose censorship case to break in, then introduces her to her hyper-efficient assistant, Elaine, who Jane Krakowski's the best. She's awesome.
Oh, my God.
She's so funny.
I love Elaine.
And another young associate who turns out to be Billy Thomas, her ex. Fish then recommends that Billy handle Ally's sexual harassment case against Billings. The next morning, it's really going to be difficult with Billings and Billy. The next morning, Ally acts as if nothing has changed, but her roommate, Renee, knows what Ally won't admit, that working with Billy will be very difficult. At the office, Fish tells Ally about an upcoming meeting with a prospective firm partner named Air National. Later, Billy informs Ally that he is now married. Ally hides her disappointment, but on her way to her censorship hearing, she inappropriately snaps at a stranger who bumps her on the street. To Ally's disbelief, the judge rules in favor of the censorship, although he does invite her to appeal his decision. When Ally confesses her loss to Fish, Billy defends her, but she snaps back at him. Later on, Billy asks for an explanation. Ally explains that it's difficult being around him again, and that's when Billy's beautiful wife, Georgia, arrives, and Ally greets her warmly but seethes inside. So throughout all these, she's having different fantasy sequences.
That you see in her head or that kind of transpire on the screen and stuff.
That night, Georgia suddenly visits Ally at her apartment, saying Billy told her that he and Ally once had a few dates.
In air quotes.
Yes. Georgia is shocked to learn that it was much more than that, and Georgia and Ally then confess their mutual hatred and both feel better. Yeah, so that's pretty. I mean, like, you've known this person literally. Through flashbacks, they've known each other. Ally and Billy have known each other since they were children. Which is funny. It's Billy again. Allison and Billy, now it's Billy and Georgia, with Ally in the middle. That was Billy. That was Miller's place, right?
Oh, Billy? That's true. Yeah. Yes. Oh my God. Okay.
And Allison. I just thought that was funny. Allison.
Allison.
The next morning, Billy and Ally hold a deposition with Billings, who claims his OCD forces him to grab women's butts. However, Ally lashes out at him. Billy chastises her, and she chastises him for telling Georgia that they had a couple of dates. Billy finally admits he was still very much in love with Ally. And later, Ally tells Fish she doesn't want to meet with the national people because conference rooms make her feel small and juvenile, but Fish won't take no for an answer. The next morning, Fish meets with Billings, saying anyone creative enough to come up with the OCD defense deserves a better job. Ally in reply threatens to quit. Billy admits he made up the OCD claim and promises never to touch Ally again. Fish reveals the offer was fake and that he recorded the whole conversation as evidence of Ally's case. That was my favorite scene.
Oh, yeah, it was great.
In the entire, because I was just like, I really was sitting there like kind of falling for it. I was just like, God, this Fish. I was thinking about Foul, like, God, this guy's a piece of shit. But then it reached a point I'm like, oh, I think they're setting him up and they're trying to catch him in a lie, which ended up being the case. Georgia waits in Ally's office, angry that Ally told Billy about Georgia's earlier visit to Ally's home. Fish simply tells them to work out their differences. Later, during the national meeting, Ally is distracted by memories and feelings of inadequacy. However, she comes up with a strategy for national that convinces them to hire the firm for law cases. Fish, Billy, and Ally drink a toast to the success. Afterward, Ally admits to Billy that she herself still loves him. He admits he loves her as well, but also loves Georgia. Later, Ally tells Fish the week has been extremely trying for her, but then reminds herself that she wouldn't want to be too happy. End of episode.
End of episode.
Hold on. Messed my mic up.
So I loved this series.
This is a great pilot.
It also brought up like so much stuff. Obviously, just I think a lot of people have their legal shows that they watch that quote unquote inspire them to go to law school. As I've mentioned, I was already in law school. But this definitely brought up talks about feminism, obviously things like sexual harassment, the viewpoint of women in law firms. Later on, Diane Cannon comes on. She's a judge. She dates Fish. So I think there was a lot of discussion about women. And one other thing in particular was the fact of what Ally wore. Callista Flockhart is a very tiny actress. She's very thin. I don't know how tall she is, of course, but her skirts skirted on like crotch level. Yeah. And again, I'm not judging her. I mean, it shouldn't matter what she wears to court, but there's always been a very strict decorum of what people wore to court. And that even went into the reverse of like when I was in law school and my moot court partner wore an actual pantsuit to one of our mock moot court competitions. She was chastised by one of the judges for wearing a pantsuit. And all I remember her saying at the time was she was like, I got this pantsuit at Saks Fifth Avenue. Like, this is not a cheap suit. And I was like, I don't think that's what he was saying. He was like, you need to be in a skirt because that's what women wear. And that was wrong. Right. And I just remember being like, is that what we're talking about?
That's the takeaway.
That's the takeaway. Forget that we argued really well and that we were a great team, but she had pants on and that was wrong. And so Ally McBeal brought a lot of that discussion into the kind of zeitgeist of the workplace and what women wear. I mean, I'm almost positive, I should have done my research on this, but the state of South Carolina still requires bar takers, women to wear skirts, heels, hose, and blouses or blazers, and gentlemen to wear suits, ties, dress shoes to take the bar.
That's so stupid.
Like, I think half the people at the Louisiana bar were probably like in their pajamas or sweatsuits or athleisure wear. And that's just, they call it quote unquote tradition, but you're like, these are just a bunch of guys that are making these stupid rules because they can.
That's exactly what they're doing.
And so Ally McBeal brought a lot of that discussion into the atmosphere, into the talk, and what women were wearing shouldn't matter as long as we're good at our jobs and we can make a difference. So it was a big show, and especially because I was in law school at the time. I loved it. I loved Callista Flockhart. I loved other shows that were around at the time legally, like Boston Legal and all of
Law
and Order, of course, always that were happening. Yeah.
All right, you think that wraps up this episode?
I think that does. It wraps up. It's my B-Day. We have a lot going on this weekend. Tonight for dinner. We have a party tomorrow, and then Easter on Sunday. It's a busy weekend.
Happy birthday, boo.
Thank you, babe. I love you.
I love you. Sorry, I wasn't expecting you to say I love you on the podcast.
Oh, my God. You're blushing.
All right. All right, that wraps up this episode. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't already, go ahead and follow us on whichever platform you're listening to this podcast on. That way you'll be notified every time we publish a new episode. You can also follow us on Instagram at We Judge Pilot Pod. We're also on Facebook. You can leave us a comment, suggest a show for us to watch, or leave some emojis in the comments. What you got?
All right, so for Ally McBeal, I have the scales for the scales of justice. I have this. You didn't have it in your pilot summary, but the dog and the nose, because remember, Ally talks about the dogs sniffing each other's butts, and that's how she and Billy first try to decide if they like each other or whatever that is. The judge emoji, the birthday cake emoji for me, the bean for Boston, the toilet to represent the unisex bathrooms.
Oh, yeah.
Even back then they had unisex bathrooms. The baby, the dancing emojis, any of the dancing emojis like the disco ball because they always go to the bar. The martini and the taco emoji for my birthday theme this weekend. The briefcase, the hands for him grabbing her, the books in the law library, the peach for Georgia, the fish for Richard, the broken heart, the money bag, the cash, the champagne, the dress, and the heels.
Good one.
All right. Well, we are going to head out, but we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for listening.